We all share the ritual. You wake up, maybe you had a rough night, or perhaps you just feel that heavy, inevitable drag, that mental fog we call sleep inertia. And what is the first, almost instinctual thing you reach for?
It's always the coffee.
That glorious, steaming cup of liquid motivation. We rely on it universally. We structure our days around it.
It's the single most consumed psychoactive substance on the planet, and for a good reason.
It works. It cuts through the fog. But here is the central challenge of today's deep dive and the question we have to answer.
Yeah.
What if that very first immediate sip of caffeine, taking before you even finish brushing your teeth, is the exact reason you feel jittery, anxious, and then utterly destroyed by that inescapable 3 p.m. slump?
That's the paradox, isn't it?
We think coffee is the solution to exhaustion, but what if every single morning we are breaking one of the most critical unspoken rules of human biology?
We're not just drinking a beverage.
No, we are actively hijacking the finely tuned, multi-layered mechanics of our brain's energy system.
Right at the precise moment it's trying to regulate itself.
Today, we're diving deep into that hijacking process. We will uncover the precise timing protocols, the profound genetic truths, and the hormonal reality that determines whether your daily caffeine ritual fuels sustained focus and mastery or, well,
Guarantees a failure state by mid-afternoon.
exactly. We're moving beyond mindless habit and into molecular precision.
I like that.
This is The Deep Dive, and today we are continuing our Unspoken Rule series, where we expose the hidden, often counterintuitive truths that govern your energy, your focus, and your long-term vitality.
And this one is a big one.
It is. The core unwritten rule we are tackling today is this. You cannot optimize alertness until you first understand the molecule of exhaustion.
You have to know the enemy.
Right. Our mission is to transform your caffeine habit from a necessary daily addiction, something you feel enslaved to, into a precise, targeted tool you wield with mastery.
Which means we have to start with the fundamental science of why you feel tired in the first place.
An experience that is far more mechanical than you might think.
That is the perfect starting point.
Rah.
Before we even talk about the antagonist to the caffeine, we absolutely must understand the protagonist of fatigue.
The protagonist of fatigue.
Yeah, the invisible enemy, the background hum that accumulates every single second you are awake. And chemically, that molecule is adenosine.
Adenosine. We hear that term a lot, but for the learner who just wants the actionable truth, how should we think about it? Is it just like metabolic waste that hangs around?
It's more than just waste. It is a critical signaling molecule. Think of it as the key orchestrator of sleep pressure.
Okay.
Your brain runs on something called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. That's the energy currency of every single cell.
Right.
When your neurons burn that ATP for energy, a byproduct of that expenditure is the gradual breakdown into adenosine. So the harder and longer your brain works.
The more adenosine you get.
Exactly. It serves as what we call the homeostatic accumulator.
Sleep homeostasis.
Right. So to make this easy to visualize, imagine adenosine is like an invisible hourglass that sits right inside your brain.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Every second you are awake, whether you're working, watching a movie, or just contemplating life, that hourglass is silently filling up with sand.
And the sand is the adenosine.
Sand is the adenosine. The higher the level of adenosine accumulation, the higher your intrinsic need for sleep becomes. That heavy, undeniable feeling of exhaustion at 10 p.m.
That's the hourglass being full.
That's the full hourglass signaling its hit capacity.
That makes perfect sense. It's like an odometer for our wakefulness. But if the brain is this enormous, sprawling city, is this accumulation happening everywhere equally? Or are there specific, pressure points that matter most for signaling fatigue?
That's a crucial distinction. It's a great question. While adenosine does increase broadly, the accumulation is particularly critical in specific wake-active areas of the brain.
Okay.
Most notably, we see significant increases in the basal forebrain. We can call it the BF.
The BF.
Yeah, studies confirm that elevated adenosine levels in the BS specifically lead to the inhibition of wake-active neurons right in that region.
And just to put that in context for everyone, what does the basal forebrain do? Why is it so important?
The basal forebrain is a region that's heavily involved in promoting alertness. It releases acetylcholine, which is a really powerful arousal neurotransmitter.
So when adenosine builds up there,
It effectively applies a chemical muzzle to the very part of the brain responsible for keeping you sharp and awake. It's a very targeted fatigue.
wow. So if adenosine is the hourglass filling up, constantly pressuring us towards sleep, What's the only reliable action that empties it out and resets our alertness for the next day?
Well, that's the non-negotiable role of high-quality sleep.
It always comes back to sleep.
It always does. Sleep is the single most powerful, evolutionarily conserved regulator for clearing adenosine. Specifically, it's the deepest stages of rest, what we call slow wave sleep, SWS, or N3 sleep.
Deep sleep.
Deep sleep. That's when the magic happens. During SWS, adenosine levels are cleared out, they're scrubbed clean, and they reset overnight.
And that glorious feeling when you wake up genuinely alert and refreshed.
The one where you don't instantly need a stimulant.
Right.
That is the biological confirmation that your adenosine levels have been effectively cleared.
Let's delve a little deeper into how adenosine actually works its magic to, enforce sleep. It's not just passively collecting, it's actively communicating this exhaustion signal. How does it tell the brain to slow down?
It communicates through specific neurochemical docking ports, or receptors. Think of them like keyholes.
Okay.
Adenosine primarily acts through two key types of receptors, the A1 and the A2A receptors, and they are distributed widely throughout your central nervous system. These are the gatekeepers.
So there are two different kinds, A1 and A2A.
Exactly. Let's start with the A1 receptors. They are the inhibitory ones.
The brake pedal.
Precisely. When adenosine binds to them, it sends a powerful message to depress the release of the excitatory neurotransmitter, glutamate.
And glutamate is like the brain's internal chatter, the energetic activity.
You got it. So by inhibiting glutamate release, the A1 receptors essentially slow down key wake-promoting neural networks, especially those neurons in the basal forebrain we just talked about, and also in the tuberomamillary nuclei, or TMN.
So the A1 receptors are hitting the primary neural brakes, quietening the parts of the brain that keep the lights on. What about the A2A receptors? Do they do the same thing?
The A2A receptors are fascinating because they work a bit differently. They're focused on tapping the gas pedal, but for sleep.
Oh, interesting. So they're pro-sleep, not just anti-wake.
Exactly. A2A receptors have an excitatory influence on specific sleep-promoting areas. The key target here is the ventrolateral preoptic area, or VLPO, in the hypothalamus.
The VLPO.
That's the brain's designated sleep switch. By exciting the VLPO, adenosine accumulation uses those A2A receptors to actively push the brain towards sleep onset.
So it's a dual action agent.
It is. It simultaneously hits the brakes on wakefulness through the A1 receptors, and it taps the gas pedal on sleep through the A2A receptors. It is a profoundly powerful system designed to enforce your sleep drive.
Okay, that gives us the foundation. We have adenosine, the invisible molecule of exhaustion, relentlessly accumulating and pushing us toward rest. Now enter our anti-hero, caffeine.
The molecule that has absolutely no respect for this beautiful homeostatic system.
None at all. This is where the intentional daily hijacking begins.
Yeah.
The fundamental science of caffeine is why it's so potent. Caffeine is what we call a non-selective antagonist to those very adenosine receptors, A1 and A2A.
Right, so antagonist just means it blocks. It sits on the receptor and prevents the native molecule adenosine from docking.
It's like a chemical imposter.
A highly persuasive one. It jams the locks on the doors of the A1 and A2A receptors. It occupies the space that adenosine is supposed to fill.
So adenosine can't dock and send the slow down and sleep message.
And the entire system receives a false negative. It believes there is no sleep pressure, even if the real adenosine levels are actually dangerously high.
I love that traffic analogy. If adenosine is the red traffic light telling the wake-promoting neurons to stop, caffeine is a swarm of impatient vehicles that just
blow right through the red light.
Exactly. They overwhelm the system, keeping the brain buzzing and active.
Right. And here's where it gets really compelling.
Because it doesn't just block the feeling of sleepiness.
No, it actively amplifies wakefulness and enhances overall brain function. The magic happens because it blocks those inhibitory A1 receptors. So what happens when you take the brakes off?
The floodgates open.
The floodgates open. The block on A1 receptors allows for an immediate surge in the release of powerful feel-good neurotransmitters linked to motivation and arousal. We're talking about genuine pharmacological activation here.
And which neurotransmitters are we talking about?
Specifically, caffeine promotes the release of dopamine, which is critical for reward, pleasure, and motivation.
The get up and go molecule.
For sure. It also increases norepinephrine, which contributes to that razor-sharp alertness and focus we all crave. And it enhances acetylcholine release, which is tied directly to cognitive flexibility, learning, and your overall mood.
So the boost we feel isn't just the absence of fatigue.
No, it's a legitimate neurotransmitter-driven acceleration of function.
That sustained activation is why caffeine remains such a potent, accessible tool. But to use it as a precision tool, not a blunt instrument, we have to understand its timing, the pharmacokinetics.
The timing is everything. Caffeine is absorbed remarkably quickly, usually within about 45 minutes of consumption.
But that's just the start.
Right, that's just its initial presence. The concentration doesn't hit its peak in the plasma immediately. Peak plasma concentration, when you feel that maximum effect, is typically reached somewhere in that critical window between 15 minutes and 2 hours after you drink it.
That 2-hour variability is a huge deal. It means the powerful double shot you just crushed at 8 a.m. might not reach its maximal impact until 9:30 or even 10:30 a.m.
And that could be overlapping, as we'll discuss, with other vital biological processes.
So once the peak hits, how long does the party last? This is the fundamental reason why late-day consumption is so risky.
The duration is governed by its half-life.
Okay.
The half-life of caffeine, the time it takes for exactly half of the original substance to be metabolized and cleared from your system, it ranges widely from about 2.5 to 5 hours in most healthy adults.
But that's just an average.
It's a huge average. This variability is vast and highly dependent on factors unique to you, including your genetics, your hormonal status, and whether or not you smoke.
And there's a detail most people miss, right? It's not just the caffeine molecule itself.
Exactly. The central nervous system effects are actually extended by caffeine's primary active metabolite, which is called paraxanthine. Yeah. When your liver processes caffeine, paraxanthine is the main result. And crucially, it also acts as an adenosine receptor antagonist.
So even after the original caffeine molecule is half gone, its chemical shadow, paraxanthine, is still diligently at work, blocking those same exhaustion signals.
It keeps the party going. So if you have a slow half-life to begin with, and then you have a secondary antagonist metabolite floating around.
It's easy to see how 4 p.m. coffee is still affecting your brain at midnight.
For sure.
And that persistence leads us directly into the tolerance trap. We've all felt this. That one perfect cup turns into 2, then 3, until you need a massive dose just to feel baseline normal.
That's physiological adaptation in action. Regular high intake leads to tolerance. The mechanism often involves an upregulation of adenosine receptors.
What does that mean, upregulation?
Essentially, your brain says, hey, caffeine keeps blocking my signal, so I'm just going to grow more receptors to try and receive the original adenosine message.
It's building more landing pads for the sleep molecule?
Precisely. And so when you suddenly stop drinking coffee, all that extra available adenosine rushes to bind to all those newly grown receptors.
And that's what causes the withdrawal.
Exactly. That sudden discontinuation causes predictable withdrawal symptoms, most commonly those debilitating headaches, agitation, fatigue, difficulty concentrating.
So you're not really getting a boost from your morning cup anymore.
You're simply medicating the incipient withdrawal state. It's a classic negative reinforcement loop.
What's particularly fascinating and something that complicates this addiction narrative is how the body adapts on a deep sleep level.
Yes, this is a really interesting area of research. While acute use, one large dose right before bed clearly impacts deep sleep.
Right.
Studies looking at chronic consistent use, for instance, taking 3 doses of 150 milligrams daily for 9 days straight, suggest that the primary marker of sleep homeostasis, slow wave activity, SWA, may not be chronically altered.
Wait a second, if SWA isn't altered, does that mean that chronic users are still getting fully restorative deep sleep? That seems to contradict everything we believe about caffeine and sleep.
It implies that the body attempts to adapt to the constant adenosine antagonism, somehow preserving that deepest, most critical stage of sleep. But, and this is a big but, the adaptation is far from perfect.
Okay.
Even if SWA is preserved, the continuous presence of caffeine and its metabolites still alters the sleep EEG power density in other lighter frequency ranges.
So if the EEG power density is altered, what does that translate to in practical terms for the listener? What does that feel like?
It means that while the core metabolic reset that we track with SWA might be maintained, the sleep itself is still lighter, more fragmented, or less stable. The sleep architecture is disrupted.
So you might get the right amount of deep sleep, but the overall quality is still garbage.
Exactly. This is why chronic users often report feeling less rested, and why studies still associate continuous caffeine use with poorer overall sleep quality. the sleep state is fundamentally more disturbed.
That is a phenomenal bridge because we've established the molecule, adenosine, the mechanism, antagonism, and the physiological cost of tolerance and sleep fragmentation. Now we introduce the third element, cortisol,
The primary stress hormone.
and the one element that dictates the optimal timing of your first cup. This brings us to the famous 90-minute rule.
Right. When you wake up, your body is naturally initiating a significant, predetermined physiological event called a cortisol awakening response, or IR.
We hear cortisol and we think stress.
And it is a stress hormone, but in the morning, its peak is entirely normal and, in fact, absolutely necessary for healthy functioning.
Okay?
Cortisol levels follow a very well-defined diurnal rhythm. They peak naturally and consistently between 30 to 45 minutes after awakening.
And this happens no matter what.
No matter what. This peak is not dependent on what kind of sleep you had. It is regulated by your circadian system, your internal clock. The purpose of this surge is powerful. It prepares the body for the demands of the day by mobilizing energy reserves and enhancing glucose availability.
So the body is already naturally turning the engine over and firing the jets to launch us into the day via this cortisol spike.
It's your body's own natural wake-up call.
So what is the consequence when we dump a high-octane stimulant like caffeine right on top of that natural, powerful hormonal signal?
Well, that is what we call the cortisol catch.
The cortisol catch.
Caffeine, as we've established, heightens neural activity and independently causes its own spike in cortisol and adrenaline. So when you consume caffeine during the natural peak of the cortisol awakening response,
You're stacking them.
you're creating an overlapping, exaggerated, and totally unnecessary stress response.
And if you're already prone to stress or anxiety, that synergy is.
It's a perfect recipe for the jitters, that rapid heartbeat, that unpleasant, wired but tired feeling where you feel simultaneously anxious and unable to focus.
You are chemically compounding your body's natural stress response.
And this leads directly to the core strategy we're talking about today.
Which you
Delaying caffeine intake for 90 to 120 minutes after you wake up.
let the natural wave pass first.
Exactly. You allow the natural, powerful suar to do its job, reach its peak, and begin its slow, natural decline before you introduce the pharmacological spike of caffeine.
So what should someone be doing during those 90 to 120 minutes, just suffering through it?
Not at all. Those minutes are crucial for other non-chemical interventions. First, you're hydrating.
Water first.
Water first. Second, you're integrating light exposure, which we'll get to. Third, you're allowing your digestive system to gently wake up before you introduce a highly acidic beverage.
Okay, let's talk about the long-term implications. What happens if you ignore this timing day after day?
Chronic interference with the natural CRR can lead to dysregulation of the entire hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, the system that manages stress hormones.
And what does that dysregulation look like?
It can result in chronically lower cortisol levels later in the day. This absence of energy is precisely what manifests as that persistent afternoon slump and the crushing tiredness that makes you reach for another cup of coffee.
You create a dependency loop fueled by your own morning habit.
Exactly.
And we can't forget the immediate, basic physiological benefit of the delay. Coffee is really acidic.
Absolutely. From a gut health perspective, that acidic rush first thing in the morning on an empty stomach can significantly increase stomach acid production.
Which can lead to irritation.
For many people, yes.
Yeah.
It can lead to irritation of the stomach lining, potentially causing or exacerbating gastrointestinal distress, acid reflux, or even conditions like IBS. Delaying that gives your system a chance to wake up gently.
But the timing of the score isn't just an isolated event, right? It's anchored to your whole circadian system.
That's right. If you want to master that 90-minute delay, you have to activate the body's master clock regulator first. And that brings us to the light protocol.
Light.
Bright light exposure, particularly the blue light found abundantly in sunlight, soon after waking is absolutely essential for synchronizing your body's master clock.
The suprachiasmatic nucleus.
That's the one. This light triggers the neural circuit that controls the precise timing and amplitude of both your morning cortisol spike and your evening melatonin release. It's silly the clock for the entire day.
So how practical does this have to be? Is sitting by a window enough? Or do we really need to get outside?
You really need to get outside. Studies confirm that going outside, even on a cloudy day, is demonstrably better than sitting by a window, because glass filters out a lot of those key alertness driving light waves.
So what's the prescription?
The recommendation is about 10 to 15 minutes of outdoor light exposure soon after waking. And for the same reason, you should probably avoid sunglasses during this initial light exposure.
But don't stare at the sun.
Of course, never stare at painfully bright light. This morning light reinforces daytime alertness and fundamentally improves the timing and depth of your sleep that night, which ultimately means more effective adenosine clearance.
Okay, we've established the timing protocol. Now let's talk hard limits. Regardless of timing, and even before we discuss genetics, there is a dosage where the adverse effects become pretty much universal.
Yes, there is.
What is that hard limit we should all be mindful of?
The scientific literature is pretty clear on this. Studies consistently show that daily doses exceeding 300 milligrams have been shown to have adverse effects on cardiovascular health, anxiety levels, and overall vitality, regardless of your genetics.
And the 300 milligrams is roughly
What?
2 large cups of brewed coffee?
Roughly, yes. It is a crucial, non-negotiable boundary to respect.
And we have highly specific data on how severely high doses impact sleep, even when you drink it way before bedtime.
Yes, there's a key study we can look at. A single high dose of 400 milligrams consumed just 4 hours prior to a person's habitual bedtime severely impacted sleep quality.
How severely?
Specifically for the participants,
Right.
this dose reduced their perceived total sleep time by an estimated 1.3 hours.
Wow, an hour and 18 minutes gone.
Gone. It also increased the perceived sleep onset latency. So, the time it took them to finally fall asleep by over 31 minutes. You're actively creating a barrier to sleep.
That's 4 hours out. But what about consumption even earlier in the day? This speaks to that half-life problem we talked about.
And the data becomes even more alarming. Even when that same 400 milligram dose was consumed a massive 12 hours prior to bedtime.
So like a 10 a.m. coffee for someone who goes to bed at 10 p.m.
Exactly. It still measurably reduced the duration of critical N3 deep sleep by 20 minutes. Consumed 4 hours prior, it reduced that deep sleep duration by almost 34 minutes.
A standard 10 a.m. coffee is still stealing deep, restorative sleep 12 hours later. That's why timing isn't just a suggestion.
It is the ultimate regulator of nocturnal repair. You might think you slept fine, but the deep recovery processes were demonstrably compromised.
Now we have to address the elephant in the room. Why does your colleague crush 4 shots of espresso at 4 p.m. and sleep like a baby, while 1 cup after noon turns you into a jittery, anxious mess?
The 90-minute rule is helpful, but this is where it gets personal.
The definitive answer lies in your DNA. This is the genetic wildcard.
This takes us into the field of nutrigenomics, specifically the metabolism machine that's operating your liver.
Okay.
Approximately 90% of all caffeine metabolism is handled by one critical liver enzyme, cytochrome P450-1A2 or CYP1A2. This is the key that determines your speed.
So it's all about this one enzyme.
For metabolism, yes. A variation in a specific genetic marker, the SNP, called RS762551, dictates how efficiently this enzyme works. This is the absolute core difference between being a fast metabolizer and a slow metabolizer.
Let's break down those two profiles. What does it look like to be a fast processor?
The fast metabolizers, who carry the AA genotype, they exhibit increased high-activity CYP1A22. They're efficiency experts. They process caffeine very rapidly.
So they get a shorter, less intense stimulation.
Exactly. They can generally handle higher intake with minimal disruption because the substance is quickly broken down and cleared. They experience fewer side effects like anxiety or palpitations.
They get the temporary mental boost without the extended negative tail. And the slow metabolizers.
They break down caffeine much more slowly. They feel the effects longer, often reporting feeling the rush for 6, 8, even 10 hours.
So they get more disruption.
A much higher risk of greater disruption, anxiety, and sleep interference because the substance just lingers in their system, continuing to block those adenosine receptors well past the point of usefulness.
And the impact is so dramatic it moves beyond just how you feel and directly affects objective physical performance.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just about feeling tired, it's about competitive edge.
Right.
We saw compelling evidence in studies with competitive male cyclists. They did a 10-kilometer time trial after consuming caffeine.
And what did they find?
It demonstrated the genetic disparity perfectly. For the fast metabolizers, the AA genotype, a standard athletic dose of caffeine resulted in a staggering 6.8% improvement in their cycling time.
So for them, it was a performance enhancer.
Just as intended. But for the slow metabolizers, the CC genotype, at that exact same dose, their performance was not just neutral.
It was worse.
It was severely degraded. They showed a stunning 13.7% diminished performance due to adverse effects like anxiety and increased heart rate.
A negative 14% change. That is the difference between winning and not even finishing the race.
It is. This proves that dosage optimization is completely meaningless without understanding your genetic blueprint first. If you are a slow metabolizer, that dose isn't fuel.
It's a competitive liability.
It's a fantastic example of why generalized advice about caffeine always fails a large segment of the population.
And as a quick real-world hack, we mentioned metabolism can be tweaked.
Oh.
Substances like curcumin and turmeric.
Right. They've been shown to inhibit that CYP1A2 activity in humans. So if you're a chronic consumer of turmeric or curcumin supplements, you're essentially slowing down your caffeine metabolism, regardless of your genetics.
That's critical to be mindful of. But beyond metabolism, there's a second critical genetic marker that governs how you experience caffeine, especially when it comes to stress and anxiety.
Yes, the anxiety detector.
The ADOR2A gene.
Yes, the ADOR2A gene regulates the A2A adenosine receptor, the one we established is crucial for pushing the brain towards sleep. Variations in this gene profoundly influence how caffeine impacts both anxiety levels and sleep quality.
So this is the definitive answer for anyone who gets classic coffee-induced anxiety.
Precisely. Individuals with certain ADOR2A variants reported significantly greater increases in self-reported anxiety after even a moderate dose of caffeine, around 150 milligrams.
That's just a small coffee.
A small coffee, yet for them, it triggers a major adverse mental state. What's most concerning is that this specific polymorphism has also been independently associated with panic disorder.
Wow, so there's a direct genetic link.
It suggests a direct link between an individual's inherent sensitivity to anxiety and the powerful anxiogenic responses triggered by caffeine. If you have this profile, minimizing caffeine is a necessary anxiety management strategy.
And these genetic variables stack up, right? It's rarely just one gene.
Absolutely. The interactions are complex. We can briefly mention in the COMT gene, which regulates stress hormones. Variants in COMT can further modulate baseline anxiety levels. So a slow metabolizer who is also highly sensitive to anxiety is going to have a profoundly rougher experience.
It's a perfect storm.
It can be. And finally, let's revisit the most foundational molecule itself. Adenosine. There's a gene called the ADA gene, which controls the enzyme that actually breaks down adenosine.
Cleanup crew.
Exactly. And carriers of one particular genotype for this ADA gene show a measurable, roughly 20% reduced breakdown of adenosine.
So they clear the exhaustion molecule less effectively.
Right. The consequence is they maintain higher levels of adenosine for longer. They actually show higher EEG delta power, a marker of deep sleep, and they also report significantly enhanced subjective sleepiness compared to non-carriers.
That is profound. It means some people are genetically hardwired to feel sleepier or to simply need more deep sleep.
Their adenosine clearance mechanism is operating at a 20% deficit.
So we've covered the molecule, the mechanism, the timing, and the genetics. Now we move into the ultimate energy stack, the advanced strategies that go beyond just managing your brew, and we start with that classic morning struggle, sleep inertia.
Right, that post-awakening grogginess, that temporary and often frustrating impairment in performance that we feel immediately upon waking.
It's the brain slowly coming online.
And it's a key barrier to immediate morning productivity.
So if the problem is the delay in the brain getting going, what if we could engineer the stimulant to be active at minute zero? Researchers are now tackling this using chronopharmacology.
It's brilliant. They're using caffeine not to power through the day, but to precisely eliminate the morning fog.
How does that work?
It involves developing these highly specific, delayed, pulsatile release caffeine delivery systems. The strategy is counterintuitive. You take the formula at bedtime.
At bedtime.
At bedtime. But critically, it is engineered to only reach an efficacious plasma concentration approximately 7 hours after ingestion.
So it's a 7-hour delay timer built into a pill.
Exactly. The hypothesis is that the formula would hit its peak concentration right around or slightly before your habitual wake time. The goal is to improve vigilance and reduce sleep inertia immediately upon awakening.
All without disturbing the quality of the sleep that just happened.
You got it. By releasing the antagonist after deep sleep has occurred, they aim for a very targeted approach to get rid of that morning grogginess.
That is a true mastery move. But we don't need highly engineered pills to manipulate our adenosine. We can also harness simple physiological levers, the most powerful being exercise.
Absolutely. Exercise directly interacts with the homeostatic drive. We know that high-intensity exercise leads to massive ATP depletion, which more adenosine in the brain. The resulting accumulation of this adenosine during wakefulness directly promotes robust slow-wave activity, SWA, during recovery sleep.
So the intense effort of exercise directly fuels the deepest, most restorative stage of sleep later that night.
Exercise is literally increasing the sleep pressure molecule, ensuring you get a deep reset.
So if exercise intentionally increases sleep pressure, is there an optimal time to work out to maximize that benefit?
The consensus tip is to exercise in the late afternoon or early evening, but ensure you finish the workout at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime so your core body temperature can drop back down.
And what about morning exercise?
Evidence also suggests that even low-intensity morning exercise, like a 45-minute walk with that bright light exposure we talked about, can help advance the circadian phase, leading to earlier evening sleepiness and better overall synchronization.
Let's connect this back to high-level brain function. We're talking about energy, but ultimately we care about motivation, memory, and sustained cognitive function. How does adenosine fit into that?
The entire sleep-wake cycle, regulated by adenosine, is intrinsically linked to advanced brain function. Think about learning and memory. During the day, our synapses, the connections between brain cells, strengthen massively as we learn new things.
Right.
If we didn't weaken some of them, our brain would be overloaded. Adenosine A1 receptor signaling is specifically connected to this process, the necessary weakening of synapses that occurs during sleep to balance the system.
So managing adenosine is key for memory consolidation.
And mood regulation and other cognitive processes like working memory. Key studies have shown that working memory only significantly improves after caffeine when that caffeine is administered under high sleep pressure conditions.
That's a powerful final insight. The tool only works best when the underlying physiological pressure, the adenosine, is genuinely high.
It absolutely does. And finally, let's wrap up with a simple, non-chemical life hack, a change in habit that is a game changer for anyone struggling to fall asleep. It's called stimulus control.
We are all guilty of this. We force ourselves to stay in bed when we can't sleep. We start worrying about tomorrow. We check our phones.
And you train your body to associate the bed with alertness, anxiety, and stress. It's the opposite of what you want.
So the unspoken rule of sleep quality is, you must train your body to associate the bed only with sleep onset.
And the technique of stimulus control requires a counterintuitive action. If you are unable to fall asleep because you feel anxious or alert,
Get out of bed.
you have to get out of bed. Go to a nearby dark, cool resting area and engage in only relaxation activities. Meditation, slow breathing, maybe light reading of a physical book.
And you only go back to bed when you feel sleepy again.
Only when you feel that heavy, undeniable sleep pressure, the buildup of adenosine rise again. This approach takes discipline, but eventually your body is trained to fall asleep more easily when you get into bed.
It establishes a clean, powerful association between your bed and restorative rest.
Which aids in better adenosine clearance every single night.
Okay, let's bring it all back home. We started this deep dive believing that caffeine was the necessary master of our mornings.
A chemical whip.
The chemical whip that forced us into productivity. But what we learned today are the fundamental rules. We learned to respect the cortisol spike and delay our stimulant for 90 to 120 minutes.
Preventing that exaggerated stress response and the crash.
We learned the non-negotiable hard limit of 300 milligrams per day, knowing that higher doses steal deep sleep even 12 hours out. And we learned the power of anchoring our circadian rhythm with light.
Targeted light exposure soon after waking.
And most profoundly, we learned to understand our personal genetic blueprint, knowing if we are a fast or slow metabolizer, if we carry that anxiety detector gene, or if we're less efficient at clearing the exhaustion molecule itself.
Armed with this knowledge, you can tailor your intake to your own biology.
We also uncovered the advanced strategies from engineering a future of pulsatile release caffeine to immediately tackle sleep inertia, to harnessing high-intensity exercise to fuel deep sleep, and the ultimate life hack of stimulus control.
It's a full toolkit.
It is. And the ultimate unspoken rule of life is that knowledge without action is just trivia. Now that you know the hidden truth about adenosine and your internal clock, you can't ethically go back to the default setting. You have to act.
You do.
So, here is the final essential rule for total life mastery. You cannot leave without leaving your mark. If this deep dive lit up your brain and delivered more precise focus than your morning double shot, hit the like button, acknowledge the value here. That is your mark. If you want to keep mastering the hidden mechanics of your life, if you want more of these unspoken truths exposed, ensure you're subscribed and ring that notification bell. That way, you won't break the rule of missing the next hidden truth. And finally, enact the rule. Tell me below in the comments, which of the unspoken rules are you going to implement tomorrow? Are you taking on the 90-minute delay, or are you finally checking your genetic profile? Go forth, master your molecules, and achieve total life mastery. I'll see you in the next deep dive.